I think a key point here is that I think by around 2014, the situation on the ground, it was a lot more manageable. The US didn't have as many troops on the ground. It wasn't as costly, less casualties, but they still pulled out so abruptly. And perhaps it's a product of this isolationist America. I'm not entirely sure why Biden.
True. So true. Yeah, if one has to look back and see where things went really wrong and how this could be avoided, if Americans really wanted to leave the way they left, the best time would have been 2014, because then our security forces were not as weak as morally, I'm saying, as they were in 2020 or 2021. Our state was not as fragile, because when there was a negotiation going on in Doha, it directly affected our state moral, like the moral of our politicians, our security forces. It created division. And some American diplomats who also were like, with original Afghan background, they actually also played it very wrongly. So that also contributed to demoralizing the state of Afghanistan, the republic, after 2014. But 2014, we had much stronger institutions, including the parliament, our army, our police. The Taliban were not as moralized and boasted as they were in 2021. So I think if they wanted to leave, really, 2014 would have been the best time, because I think then the collapse would have not been the same way as it was in 2020.
So you think the Afghanistani government had the ability, or the situation was stable enough for them to just continue and see over this transition process?
I think so. I think politically, I think our forces never actually were defeated. They were not defeated. Because it was after, like, the Taliban fought our forces for 20 years, right? And in 20 years, they were not able to capture one province. We call them provinces, and then districts. They are like the first administrative board, administrative offices. Yeah. So they call them provinces, and then geographically smaller one is the district. So in 20 years, the Taliban were not able to control one province by force. That means our forces were strong enough. It was politically, when the negotiations started, our forces started to become demoralized and lost hope and lost optimism. And districts started surrendering because they knew that, well, if Americans signed the deal with them, they're going to come anyways. So there is no point in us fighting. Also, our political institutions were stronger. There were more political unity among our security political forces in 2014 or even before. When we started having a national unity government, then that was the moment that more political fragmentation happened. This is in 2014, and the president who fled was the president. He was somebody who had the power to to divide instead of uniting. And what Afghanistan needed was, and needs still, is the unity, not the division. So before that was a different government, a different leadership, and things were much more stable. If they wanted to leave, we would have never collapsed the same way we collapsed in 2021. Also, we collapsed because the former president fled. Escaped Afghanistan.
What was his name again?
Ashraf Ghani.
Ashraf Ghani.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking when I saw on the news, Afghani president leaves in helicopter, and you see the video of him leaving.
Yeah, very cowardly move.
No, we don't have such a. I don't think in recent history, except Syria, that now you had also President Assad doing the same thing, or then Bangladesh. I think some other countries followed his footstep, the leaders. I would say Bangladesh, like their prime minister fled. Syria, but before that, in our history, we didn't have such a an experience of the president fleeing while the situation was quite okay.
What was it?
I mean, it was okay. If he would have stayed and mobilized our forces politically, at least there was some resistance.
Yeah.
And then that resistance would give us, the negotiators, the time to agree on a political settlement in the meantime with the Taliban.